Olivia sat in the leather chair of her lawyer's office, her manicured fingers resting on a thick stack of documents. Through the window, she had a clear view of the upscale jewelry store across the street, the very place her husband Daniel was purchasing a diamond bracelet. Not for her, of course. For her. The woman Olivia had been tracking for months, the one who had no idea she was about to become collateral damage. "Are you sure about the timing?" Patricia, her lawyer, asked, eyes filled with admiration and concern. Olivia didn't hesitate. She turned her phone screen toward Patricia. On it, Daniel's latest Instagram story, a champagne glass in the store's VIP lounge. His caption, "Some things are worth the investment." The timing, Olivia thought, was perfect. As Daniel sipped champagne, basking in his own deception, Olivia signed the final document. Her signature was smooth, deliberate, years of betrayal pressed into the ink. Across town, her husband believed he was the master of his world. The man with money, power, and charm, juggling a wife and a mistress like a seasoned player. What he didn't know, what he never suspected, was that Olivia wasn't just his loving, oblivious wife. She was the silent trustee of his family's wealth. For the past 3 years, she had been quietly watching, documenting, and waiting. Now, as Daniel planned a romantic getaway with his mistress, fully expecting Olivia to remain in the dark, she was orchestrating the biggest wake-up call of his privileged life. By Monday morning, Daniel's empire would collapse. Olivia had spent months collecting evidence. Every transaction, every secret dinner, every charge on their joint account that didn't add up. She had watched as Daniel funneled money through fake businesses, all under the guise of investments. His mistress, Julia, had even been given a fraudulent job title, financial consultant, despite her only experience being as a part-time yoga instructor. "Once we file this," Patricia said, sliding the final papers forward, "his access to the family trust fund is gone. He won't even be able to buy a cup of coffee without approval." Olivia picked up her pen. Down the street, Daniel was laughing, kissing Julia's cheek as the salesperson wrapped the bracelet in a velvet box. He had no idea that with one stroke of her pen, Olivia was about to take everything away. That evening, Daniel texted Olivia, the same way he always did. "Working late, sweetheart. Big client dinner. Don't wait up. Love you." She smiled at the irony. At that exact moment, she was reviewing the proof that Daniel's client dinner was actually a reservation for 2 at the city's most exclusive rooftop restaurant. "Men like him always think they're the smartest in the room," Patricia murmured, scrolling through Olivia's collected evidence. "No," Olivia corrected, eyes gleaming. "They just never bother looking around." By sunrise, Olivia's plan would be unstoppable. By Monday morning, Daniel wouldn't just be exposed. He'd be ruined. Daniel strolled into their penthouse late that night, the scent of expensive cologne and betrayal clinging to his suit. Olivia sat at the kitchen island, sipping tea, her expression calm. "You're up late," he said, loosening his tie, oblivious to the storm brewing beneath his roof. "Couldn't sleep," Olivia replied smoothly. "Busy day tomorrow." Daniel kissed her cheek, the same lips that had whispered sweet nothings to Julia hours earlier. He had no idea that while he slept, Olivia was finalizing the paperwork that would freeze his accounts, revoke his trust fund access, and uncover his offshore transactions. She watched him disappear into their bedroom, her phone buzzing with confirmation. By morning, the life he thought was untouchable would begin crumbling at his feet. Sunday morning was a masterpiece of pretense. Olivia played her role perfectly, acting the devoted wife while Daniel packed for his business trip. In reality, he was preparing for a week-long getaway with Julia. First-class tickets, a 5-star resort, all paid for with their money. At brunch with friends, Daniel boasted about a new investment deal. Olivia listened, nodding, while scrolling through documents on her phone. His real investments? Fake shell companies named after childhood pets, laundering thousands into hidden accounts. He didn't notice when Olivia's phone vibrated with a final confirmation. The trust fund audit was in full motion. He thought he had the upper hand. By the time he landed in the Maldives, he wouldn't even have a working credit card. Monday morning, Olivia arrived at the family's financial offices in a crisp navy suit, polished and composed. Across town, Daniel breezed into a luxury hotel, ready to check in. Then his card was declined, then another. Confused, he checked his phone. Hundreds of notifications. His bank accounts, frozen, his trust fund access revoked, his lawyer unavailable, his name removed from company records. As panic set in, Olivia took her seat at the Bennett family boardroom table. The room buzzed as investigators presented their findings. Daniel's fraudulent transactions, offshore accounts, every stolen dollar laid bare. His father's face was pale with rage, his mother heartbroken. Daniel had spent years believing he was untouchable. Now he was learning just how wrong he had been. As Daniel scrambled to understand what was happening, Olivia delivered the final blow. She forwarded him an email, a formal notice. His name had been stripped from the family trust. His assets were under federal review, his luxurious lifestyle gone. His phone rang, Julia on the line. "I just got a call from the IRS," she stammered. "What the hell did you do?" Daniel barely heard her. His father had just sent a message. 3 words, "You're dead to me." Meanwhile, Olivia sat across from her lawyer, sipping espresso. The man who had called her clueless now had nothing. She took a deep breath, savoring the moment. It was time for him to learn. Underestimating her had been his most expensive mistake. Daniel stormed into their penthouse, expecting to find Olivia waiting, clueless and forgiving. Instead, he found a near-empty home. His designer suits? Gone. His wine collection? Sold. His office? Stripped bare. A single envelope sat on the marble counter. His hands trembled as he opened it. Notice of eviction from his own penthouse. A second document detailed every fraudulent transaction Olivia had uncovered. Offshore accounts, fake investments, his plan to siphon millions before filing for divorce. His stomach twisted. He had spent years spinning lies, convinced Olivia would never see through him. Now she was 10 steps ahead, and he was staring at the ruins of a life he thought was secure. His world wasn't just falling apart, it had already collapsed. At the Bennett family estate, a private meeting was underway. Olivia sat beside Daniel's father, reviewing documents while federal auditors combed through records. Diana, Daniel's mother, wiped tears from her eyes. How could he do this to us? His father was silent, staring at the papers that proved his son had stolen from his own family. Then his voice, low and firm. "He's not walking away from this." Meanwhile, Daniel was learning just how deep the betrayal ran. His name was removed from family business accounts, his luxury car repossessed, his passport flagged. He reached for his phone to call Olivia, but the line went straight to voicemail. For the first time in his life, Daniel was powerless, and the wife he had underestimated was the one holding all the cards. Daniel's lawyer called with devastating news. "The audit team found everything, Daniel. This isn't just a family dispute, it's criminal. If you don't cooperate, they'll press charges." His mouth went dry. He had spent months carefully planning his escape, thinking he could drain the trust fund and disappear with Julia. Now, Julia had blocked his number, his assets were frozen, and his so-called friends wouldn't return his calls. Every bank account he thought was hidden had been traced, every lie unraveled. He had spent years living in excess, believing he was invincible. Now, he was a man with nothing. Meanwhile, Olivia prepared for a meeting with the judge overseeing the trust fund case. By tomorrow, Daniel wouldn't just be broke. He'd be facing federal charges. Daniel's desperation turned to rage. He stormed into the Bennett financial offices, demanding to see his father. Security stopped him at the entrance. "You're no longer authorized here, Mr. Bennett." Disbelief flooded his face. "I'm a Bennett. Not anymore." Inside, Olivia stood before the family council, presenting her final findings. Millions in fraudulent transactions, fake contracts with Julia's name attached, documents proving Daniel had planned to flee the country. The final nail in the coffin? A hidden prenup clause Olivia had quietly amended years ago. Daniel had planned to leave her with nothing. Instead, she was leaving with everything. As he stood outside, cut off from the empire he once controlled, Olivia signed the last document ensuring Daniel would never touch another dime of family money again. Daniel sat in a cheap hotel room, staring at his laptop screen. News of his downfall had spread. The Bennett Trust scandal was trending, financial circles whispering about his fraud. He tried to access his offshore accounts. Denied. Tried to call his old lawyer. Unavailable. He checked his messages, one from his father. "Don't contact this family again." Desperate, he called Julia. She finally answered. "I'm done, Daniel," she hissed. "The feds showed up at my apartment. You ruined my life." The line went dead. Daniel threw his phone against the wall. chest tightening. For years, he believed he could lie, steal, and manipulate without consequences. Now he was alone, and for the first time, he truly understood what it meant to lose everything. Inside the Bennett headquarters, Olivia sat at the head of the boardroom table, the seat that once belonged to Daniel's father. The family council had gathered, reviewing the official transfer of trust fund control. "Everything is secure," Patricia confirmed, placing the final document in front of Olivia. With a steady hand, she signed. Daniel was officially removed from every business, every investment, every piece of the family empire. A new chapter was beginning. Outside, Daniel paced in the rain, staring up at the building that had once been his domain. When he tried to step inside, security blocked him. "I just want to talk to my wife," he pleaded. The guard's response was cold. "She's not your wife anymore." Daniel stumbled back, his world unrecognizable. Olivia hadn't just defeated him, she had erased him. Daniel's last hope was a deal. His lawyer arranged a meeting with Olivia, his one chance to negotiate. She arrived in a sharp black suit, poised and unshaken. "I made mistakes," Daniel started, forcing humility into his voice. "But we can fix this." Olivia leaned back, her expression unreadable. "You mean I can fix this?" she corrected. He swallowed hard. "I'll sign whatever you want. Just leave me something." She slid a single document across the table, a full confession. "This is all you have left," she said softly. "Sign it, or the federal charges proceed." Daniel's hands trembled as he grabbed the pen. He had no leverage, no power. He signed. And with that, Olivia closed the chapter on the man who thought he controlled her. 6 months later, Olivia stood at a gala, sipping champagne. The Bennett Trust Fund had not only survived, it had thrived under her leadership. Across the city, Daniel sat in a cramped apartment, watching the news. Olivia's name flashed on the screen. The woman who saved a fortune. His former world continued without him. The luxury, the power, the life he had built, now belonged to the woman he once dismissed as clueless. His phone buzzed. A final message from Olivia. "You thought money made you untouchable. You were wrong." Daniel stared at the words, realizing too late. His biggest mistake had never been stealing from the trust fund. It had been underestimating her. Daniel shuffled through a pile of unpaid bills, sitting in a dimly lit apartment that smelled of cheap whiskey and regret. His trust fund was gone, his businesses dissolved, his name tarnished beyond repair. He had spent his life looking down on Olivia, convinced she was just a pretty accessory. Now, she sat at the helm of the empire he once controlled. He turned on the TV. There she was. "The Bennett Trust Fund is stronger than ever," Olivia told the reporter, her confidence unwavering. Daniel clenched his jaw. This was supposed to be his moment. But he had gambled everything and lost to the woman he thought was powerless. The worst part, she didn't even think about him anymore. In a last-ditch effort, Daniel tried to sue for a portion of the trust. His case? That Olivia had manipulated him, that she had plotted his downfall. But Olivia wasn't worried. She was prepared. The court reviewed his own financial records, the fraudulent transfers, the fake companies, the offshore accounts. His entire case fell apart within minutes. When the judge threw out his lawsuit, the courtroom erupted in whispers. Daniel sat frozen. This was really it. No more power, no more loopholes. Olivia walked past him without a second glance, stepping into her waiting car. For years, Daniel had built a life on lies. Now he was buried beneath them, and no one was coming to dig him out. Daniel's old world had moved on. His former friends had abandoned him. His mistress had vanished. His name was wiped from every family document. Meanwhile, Olivia thrived. The Bennett Trust had expanded under her leadership, gaining recognition as a model for financial governance. At the next family gala, Daniel's absence wasn't even acknowledged. His chair sat empty, but no one mourned his downfall. That night, Olivia stood at the top of Bennett Tower looking down at the city. The same city where Daniel now lived in obscurity. He had spent years trying to control her. But in the end, she had taken everything, and he was nothing more than a cautionary tale. A year later, Olivia sat in her penthouse, reviewing the latest financial reports. The trust was flourishing, the family stronger than ever. Her phone buzzed. A new job application for a low-level finance position had come in. The applicant? Daniel Bennett. She stared at his name, a smirk playing at her lips. He had gone from managing millions to begging for a job. Without hesitation, she deleted the email. Daniel had once believed money made him untouchable, but the truth was simple. Power doesn't belong to those who inherit it. It belongs to those who know how to protect it. And Daniel? He had never stood a chance. What do you think? Did Daniel get what he deserved? Or was Olivia too ruthless? Let us know in the comments. If you love this story, hit that like button, subscribe, and share with someone who enjoys a good revenge tale. And stay tuned, because next time we have an even bigger takedown story coming your way.